Hello, 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 hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. It's a new week. Today's Tuesday. Okay. Uh, Chapter 6. Vocabulary Review. Foot, the cost. 支付成本 Ascension, ascension, essence, 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 essence 本质 Advocate 采取不是支持，支持是吧？支持对 Advocate, advocate 拥护支持。recipient, recipient, anarchy, 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 记不住。sovereignty, potential 潜力的 potential. Their leaders are being groomed, 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 groomed to become potentates, potentate, potentate, potentate. In new high-tech feudalism, pay homage, paying homage to their laws in New York. It didn't come about by chance, but by conscious, by conscious, 谨慎的、有意识的、conscious and deliberate and deliberate, deliberate 不是 deliberate, deliberate, deliberate and responsible planning. With respect to 就什么什么而言 convert 改变 converge 收敛 convergence 相同的 deception 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 骗人骗人 I saw through her deception to obtain something by deception and around eroding it piece by piece. Okay, that's all for yesterday. So today we will continue read the chapter 6. Chapter 6. Building the New World Order. Regional trade arrangements should not be regarded as ends in themselves, but as supplements to global liberalization, 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 liberalization. Regional arrangement provides models or building blocks for increased or strengthened globalism. Western Europe represents regionalism in its truly form. The steps toward deepening, increasing the number of agreements are dramatic and designed to be irreversible. Irreversible, 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 irreversible. A common currency, central bank, count and parliament, parliament will have expanded powers after the Maastricht Summit. An economist, editorial pronounced the verdict. Call it what you will. Call it what you will. Call it what you will. By any other name, it is federal government. In sum, the regional integration process in Europe can be seen as akin to an exercise in nation building, as akin 类似的 akin kind of akin applying this same perspective applying the same as perspective to treaty. Former Secretary of State of Henry Kissinger said it is not conventional trade agreement, but the architecture of a new international system, the vital first step for a new kind of community of nations. The newspaper article that contained this statement was appropriately entitled with "Finally Creates a New World Order." David Rockefeller was even more emphatic. 注意的这个 emphatic. He said that it would be criminal not to pass the treaty because everything is in place after 500 years to build a true new world in the Western Hemisphere. By early 1994, the drift toward the New World Order had become a rush. The drift 漂流水龙头 the drift toward 朝什么样的趋势the drift towards the drift toward the New World Order had become a rush. On April 15, the government of Morocco placed a full-page ad in the New York Times celebrating the creation of the World Trade Organization, which was formed by the signing of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, which took place in the Moroccan city of Marrakech, which Americans were still being told that JTT was merely a target, was a trade agreement. The internationalists were celebrating a much larger concept. The ad spelled it out in unmistakable terms. Mistakable. A rare glimpse into the inner workings. 蠢蠢欲读. So much for the final play. Let us return now to the game called JEKYLL, as it is actually played today on the international scene. Let us begin with a glimpse into the inner workings of the presidential cabinet. James Watt was the Secretary of the Interior in the Reagan administration. Interior 内部 interior interior okay interior 内政部 In his memories, he described an incident countable event in life or narrative 发生的事儿 Several amusing incidents without incident to be full of incident a border incident diplomatic stabbing incident to be instant on something. The pains incident. To grow up. Okay, incident. Describe an incident at a cabinet meeting in the spring of 1982. The first item on the agenda were reports by Treasury Secretary Donald Reagan. 这个里根啊，霍格央行的里根啊 and Budget Director David Stockman concerning problems the less developed countries were having with their bank loans, was said. Secretary Reagan was explaining the inability 无能 inability of those destitute destitute to be destitute of some of experience. Countries to pay even the interest on the loans that individual banks such as Bank of America, Chase Manhattan, and Citibank had made. Secretary Reagan was explaining the inability of those destitute countries to pay even the interest on the loans that individual banks such as the president was being told what actions the United States must take to salvage 抢救挽回抢救 salvage 啊不是 salvage the situation after the Reagan and Stockman briefings. There were several minutes of discussion before I asked, does anyone believe that these less developed countries will ever be able to pay back the principal on these loans? When no one spoke up, I asked, if the loans are never going to be repaid, why should we again bail out the countries and arrange payments for their interest? The answer came from several voices at once. If we don't arrange for their interest payments, the loans will go into default, and it could put our American banks in jeopardy. Jeopardy. To be in jeopardy. 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 Oh my God. Jeopardy. Jeopardy. In jeopardy. Jeopardy. Would the customers lose their money? No, came the answer. But the stockholders might lose dividends. In amazement, I leaned back in my large leather chair. Only 2 seats from the President of the United States, I realized that nothing in the world could keep these high government officials from scrabbling to protect and bail out a few very large and sorely troubled American banks from scrabbling. 争抢 from scrabbling to protect and bail out a few very large and sorely troubled Americans. In amazement, 有趣的是，令人惊奇的是 I was amazement, I leaned back in my large leather chair. I leaned back, leaned back, 站起来，倾斜，leaned back, 背靠，倾斜，leaned back, 向后靠，lean back, lean down, 俯身向下，lean down, lean forward, lean on, lean out, lean over, lean towards. I lean back in my large leather chair. Only 2 seats for the President of the United States. I realized that nothing in the world could keep these high government officers. Nothing in the world, nothing could keep this from scaling and beat us. 能看懂，但是 I leaned back in my large leather chair. 我惊讶地向后靠在自己宽大的皮椅上。Only 2 seats from the President of the United States. I realized that nothing in the world could keep these high government officials. 没有什么能阻止 Nothing in the world keep this government officer. I realized that nothing in the world could keep. 没有什么能够阻止 有什么能够阻挡？争先恐后 from spreading to protect。我对世界的向往。The first major score in the game had been made under the Carter administration. The first major score in the game had been made under the Carter administration when Panama fell in arrears 预期欠款 fell in arrears on the payments of its loans. A consortium 对财团 consortium 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 All banks include Chase Manhattan First National of Chicago City Bank brought prayer to bear on Washington to give the canal to the Panama government so it could use the revenue to pay interest on its loans. Although there was massive opposition 反对 to this move among the American people, the senator yielded to insider prayer and passed the giveaway treaty. Panamanian government inherited 120 million in annual revenue, and the interest payment to the banks were restored as Congressman Philip Crane observed at the time of the Tory joy-backed coup to stage a coup, pull off a coup, score a coup. At the time coup in 1968, Panama's total official overseas debt stood at a manageable and, by world standards, modest 167 million. Under Toji's indebtedness has skyrocketed nearly 1,000% to a massive 1.5 billion. Debt service ratio now consumes an estimated 39% of the entire Panamanian budget. What it appears we really have here is not just aid to a single dictator in the form of new subsidies and canal revenues. The treaties would give to a Toraji region, but a bailout of numbers of banks which should have known better than to invest in Panama and in any event should not escape responsibility for having done so. 托里霍斯 Tory horse backed coup. Panama's total office overseas debt stood at a manageable and by world standards modest267亿美元 under Tory horse indebtedness has skyrocketed near 1,000%. Nearly 1,000% to a massive 1.5 billion. Indebtedness 欠债 indebtedness 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 debt service ratio now concerns an estimated 大约 estimated estimated of the entire Panama budget. What appears we really have here is not just aid to a tinsel dictator, Tin Horn, in the form of new subsidies and canal revenues the treaty would give to a territorial region. New subsidies the treaty would give to the new region. 这些援助的形式包括 but a bailout of a number of banks which should have known better than to invest in Panama, but a bailout of a number of banks which should have known better than invest in Panama. 这些银行本应更谨慎，不应投资于，而是对一些本应更谨慎不投资于银行的救助。have known better 更谨慎。 in any and in any event, 而且无论如何 should not escape responsibility for having done so， 都不应逃避对自己投资决策的责任，逃避责任 for doing so。哎，这段太绕了。The Panama bailout was a unique play. In no other country did we have an income-producing property to give away. 你真是没看过中国共产党干的事。So from that point forward, the bailout would have to be done with mere money. To pave the way, pave 铺路 to be paved with God, to pave the way for that, for something, somebody. To pave the way for that, Congress passed the Monetary Control Act of 1980, which authorized the Federal Reserve to monetize foreign debt. 货币法 monetize foreign debt. That is banker language, meaning that the Fed was now authorized to create money out of nothing for the purpose of lending to foreign governments. It classified those loans as assets and then uses them as collateral for the creation of even more money here in the United States. Collateral 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 okay collateral a collateral loan 抵押贷款 collateral 附带的抵押物 collateral put up collateral for a loan collateral loan 抵押贷款 collateral loan. That was truly a revolutionary expansion of the Fed's power to inflate. Until then, it was permitted to make money only for the American government. Until then, it was permitted to make money only for the American government. Now, it was able to do it for any government. Since then, it has been functioning as a central bank for the entire world. 这就是这个什么法案是吗？1980年的这个货币控制法案。Mexico By 1982, almost every third world government was running behind in payments. Moscow led the way by announcing it could not send any more money that year on its 85 billion debt. Federal Reserve government Henry Wallish rushed to Switzerland to negotiate an FM loan of 4.5 billion through the Bank of International Settlements 协议 settlement. The Central Bank of Europe and Japan provide 1.85 billion. The rest came from the Federal Reserve commercial banks. Postponed payments on the principal for 2 years. Principal. But with the infusion of new loans, but with the infusion of new loans, 注入 an infusion of new capital into a company, an infusion of something into something. Payments on the interest was resumed. That did not solve the problem. Within a few years, Mexico was in arrears again. And in 1985, the banks agreed to postpone 29 billion in payments and rolled over another 20 billion, which means they issued new loans to pay off the old. That same year, Secretary of the Treasury James Baker announced the government's plan to solve the world's debt crisis. It was formal statement encouraging banks to continue lending to third world governments, provided they promised to enact economic reforms favoring a free market. It was more of the philosophy than a plan. It was more of a philosophy than a plan because there was no hope that it would be implemented by any of the socialist governments receiving the loans. Behind the announcement was the implication that the federal government acting through a Federal Reserve System could be counted on to assist if the loans went sour. Baker called for funneling 29 billion over 3 years primarily to Latin American countries, of which Mexico was a prime recipient. Fernal 输送 天，真的是看不清。The government's plan to solve the world's debt crisis. It was a formal statement. 格式化的、正式的。Encouraging banks to continue lending, the government's provided the promise to enact by enact 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 economic reforms. To continue lending, several governments provided they promised to enact economic reforms favoring a free market. It was more of a philosophy 心理作用，哲学 philosophy 理念 was a philosophy and plan. Because there was no hope that it would be implemented by any of the socialist governments receiving the loans. Behind the announcement was the implication that the federal government acting through the federal system could be counted on to assist if the loans were sour. Behind them was the inkling that the federal government acting through the federal system could be counted on to assist if the loans were sour. Baker called for funerary billing over 3 years primarily to Latin American countries, of which Mexico was a prime recipient. Shortly after the Mexico currency swap, shortly after the Mexico government had loaned $55 million to Fidel Castro. It announced to the banks, "We will pay only what we have and no more." Shortly after, the Mexico government had loaned $5 million to It announced to the banks, "We will pay only what we have and no more." Whereupon Paul Volcker, head of the Federal Reserve, rushed to meet with Mexico's finance minister, Joseph Silver Hotko, and offered to put the American taxpayer into the breach. A $600 million short-term loan was extended to get Mexico past its election date of July 4th. It was called a currency swap because Mexico exchanged the equal number of pesos which is promised to redeem in US dollars, pesos of which were worthless in international markets, which is the reason Moscow wanted the dollars. The importance of this loan was not its size, nor even the question of repayment. It was the manner in which it was made. First, it was made by the Federal Reserve directly, acting as a central bank for Moscow, not the USA. And secondly, it was done almost in total secrecy. William Greener gives the details. The currency swaps had another advantage. They could be done secretly. Walker discreetly informed both the administration and the key congressional chairman, and none objected. But the public reporting the currency swap was required only every quarter, so the emergency loan for the Fed would not be disclosed for 3 or 4 months. By that time, Walker hoped Moscow would be arranging more substantial new financing from the IMF. The foreign assistance was done as discreetly as possible to avoid setting off a panic, but also to avoid domestic political controversy. Bailing out Moscow, it seemed, was too grave to be controversial. 争议的 political controversy 争论。这是货币互换的本质是什么？看一下。Had another advantage. They could be done secretly. Walker discreetly discreetly informed both the administration and the key congressional chairman, and none objected. But the public reporting of the currency swap was required only every quarter. But the public reporting of currency 但是货币互换的公开公告 The public reporting 公开公告 of currency swaps was required only every quarter. 但是货币互换的公开报告仅需每季度公布一次。So the emergency loan from the Fed would not be disclosed for 3 or 4 months. 因此 so the emergency loan 紧急贷款 from the Fed 美联储的紧急贷款 would not be disclosed 在4个月内不会被披露。By that time 同时到那个时候 Walker hoped Moscow would be arranging more substantial new financing from the IMF. 到那时，沃克希望墨西哥已经在安排。The foreign assistance was done as dis- dis- discreetly as possible to avoid the setting of a panic. 外国人尽可能低调的进行 to avoid the setting of a panic, but also to avoid domestic political control, controversy, con, controversy. Bailing out Moscow is seen as too grave to be controversial. Too grave. 以至于无法引发争议 to be controversial. Too grave. Debt swap 货币互换，这是债务互换。The currency swap didn't solve the problem, so in March of 1988, the players and the referees agreed to introduce a new maneuver in the game, an accounting trick called a debt swap. A debt swap is similar to a currency swap in that the United States exchanges something of real value in return for something that is worthless. But instead of currencies, they exchange government bonds. The transaction is complicated. The transaction is completed by the time value of those bonds. Currencies are valued by their immediate worth, what they will buy today, but bonds are valued by the future worth, what they will buy in the future. After that differential factor is calculated, the process is essentially the same. Essence, essentially the same. Here is how it worked. Okay, how it worked. Moscow using US dollars purchased 482 million worth of American Treasury bonds, 美国国债 that pay no interest but which will pay 3.67 billion when they mature in 20 years. Mature.到期 mature when they mature in 20 years. 20年到期后买，他们购买美国的财政部的国债 to pay no interest. 他们用这么多钱，will 到期之后 technically these are called zero coupon bonds. Then Moscow issued its own bonds with the U.S. U.S. securities tied to them as collateral, as collateral, 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 as collateral. This means that the future value of Moscow's bonds, previously considered worthless, were now guaranteed by the United States government. The banks eagerly swapped their old loans for these new Moscow bonds at a retail ratio of about 1.4 to 1. In other words, they accept 100 million in bonds in return for canceling 140 million in old debt. That reduced their interest income. That reduced their interest income. But they were happy to do it because they had swapped worthless loans for fully guaranteed bonds. This maneuver,就是在后边 this maneuver 这些操作 maneuver was held held to hail blows on an opponent hail curse on somebody to mark 小不羽毛一个 hail down hail in maneuver was hailed in the press as a true monetary magic. It would save the American government more than 200 million in annual interest charges. It would restore cash flow to the banks, and the miracle of miracles, it would cost nothing to American taxpayers. The reasoning was that the Treasury bonds were sold at normal market rates. The Mexican government paid as much for them as anyone else. That part was true, but what the commentators failed to notice was where Mexico got the American dollars with which to buy the bond. They came through the IMF in the form of foreign currency exchange reserve. In other words, they were subsidies from the industrialized nations, primarily the United States. So the U.S. Treasury put up the lion's share of the money to buy its own bonds. It went $500 million deeper in debt and agreed to pay $5.7 billion, half billion, more in the future payments so the Mexican government could continue paying interest to the banks. That is called bailout, and it does fall on the American payers. Gollanter. Brazil, Argentina, convergence, the need for convergence. China, Red China joined the IMF. Dorothy lost, although it was well known that she was devoting a huge portion in her resources to military development. By 19, China was the IMF's second largest borrower, next to India, and transfusions have grown at a steady pace ever since. Will encourage economic reforms. The Great Deception, 大衰退。欺骗 deception 欺骗 It is others contention Communists became social democrats. Eastern Europe, Russia. Business venture in Russia insured by US. The conspiracy theory summary: the international version of the game called bailout is similar to the domestic version. That overall objective is to have the taxpayers cover the defaulted loans so that interest payments can continue go into the banks. The differences are that instead of justifying this as protecting the American public, the premise is that it is to save the world from poverty. And second, the main money pipeline goes from the Federal Reserve through the IMF and World Bank. Otherwise, the rules are basically the same. There is another dimension. Another dimension to the game, however, that involves more than mere profits and scam. It is the conscious and deliberate evolution有意的谨慎的evolution into a world central bank with the power of issuing a world fiat currency, and that is an important step in an even larger plan to build a true world government within the framework of the United Nations. Economical strong nations are not candidates for surrendering their sovereignty to a world government. Therefore, through loans that will never be paid back, the IMF World Bank direct the massive transfer of wealth from the industrialized nations to less developed nations. This ongoing progress eventually drains their economies to the point where they also will be in need of assistance, no longer capable of individual action. They will accept the loss of sovereignty in return for international aid. The less developed countries, on the other hand, are being brought into the New World Order along an entirely different route. Many of these countries are ruled by pretty tyrants who care little for their people except how to extract more taxes from them without causing a revolt. Loans from the IMF Bank are used primarily to perpetuate themselves and their ruling parties in power, and that is exactly what the IMF Bank intends. Rhetoric about helping rec- rec- rhetoric rhetoric 虚假的那其实 rhetoric about helping the poor notwithstanding, the true goal of the transfer of wealth disguised as loans is to get control over the leaders of the less developed countries after these despots get used to the taste of such an unlimited supply of sweet cash. They will never be able to break the habit. They will be content already are content to become little gold-plated cogs in the giant machinery of world government. Ideology means nothing to them. Capitalist, communist, socialist, fascist. What does it matter so long as the money keeps coming? The IMF World Bank literally is buying these countries and using our money to do it. The recent inclusion Red China and the former Soviet bloc on the list of IMF Bank recipient countries signals the final phase of the game. Now that Latin America and Africa have been purchased into the New World Order, this is the final frontier. In relatively short time span, China, Russia, and the Eastern Europe countries have now become the biggest borrowers, and already they are in arrears on their payments. This is where the action will lie in the months ahead. A cash costs on money. Section 2 Debt swap debt swap 这是货币互换，正式的 soft in the MSK。看这货币互换是什么意思啊？And was in which it was made first. 是货币互换，看一下啊。Shortly after Moscow government had loaned 45 million to Fidel Castro. Government had loaned 给卡斯特罗，墨西哥政府向it announced to the banks. We will pay only what we have and no more. Whereupon Paul Volcker, head of the Federal Reserve, rushed to meet with Mexico's financial minister, JEKYLL, and offered to put American taxpayers into breach. And offered to put the American taxpayers into breach. Short term, 6亿美元的 short term was extended to get Moscow put past its election day ban. 6亿美元的短期贷款 ，That was called a currency swap. 这6亿美元的短期贷款叫做货币互换 ，because Moscow exchanged an equal number of pesos. 墨西哥用等值的 ，which it promised to redeem in US dollars. 并承诺以美元赎回。啊，这就是货币互换。货币互换这个意思，用垃圾给你，然后告诉你我到时候用。This also caused worthless in international markets, which is the reason Moscow wanted the dollar. The importance of the loan was not its size, nor even the question of the repayment. It was manner in which it was made. 它这么做的这种方法。First, it was made by Federal Reserve directly, acting as a central bank for Moscow. Not for the second, it was done almost the total secrecy. 这个叫货币互换。货币互换就用比索换你的美元，我给你承诺我给你的美元，给你的比索我用美元再换回来，这就是货币互换。货币互换说白了也是债务，就是有抵押collateral loan 也是有抵押贷款，抵押的就是货币而已。collateral 这就是抵押的货币互换，就是抵押的是货币而已，那也是垃圾的。然后债务互换 currency swap did not solve the problem. So in March 1988, the players and referee agreed to this new maneuver in the game. Maneuver in the game. Maneuver in the game. An accounting trick called a debt swap. A debt swap is similar to currency swap in that the United States exchange something for real value in return for something that is worthless. But instead of currencies, they exchange government bonds. 这互换的不是货币，而是government bonds. Government bonds. 政府国债是吧？政府债券就是国债呗。The transaction is complicated. 互换的过程很复杂。By the time value of those bonds. 时间的价值。Currencies are valued by their immediate worth. What they will buy today, but bonds are valued by their future worth. What will buy in the future. After that differential factor is calculated, the process is essentially the same. Here is how it worked. Essentially, Moscow using its dollar purchased was American Treasury bonds that pay no interest, but which will pay 35 million when they mature 到期 mature 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 is mature will pay 买了这么多的债券 These are called zero coupon bonds. Then Moscow issued its own bonds when the U.S. securities tied to them as collateral. 墨西哥政府发行他自己的债券，在美国债券的 securities tied to them as collateral. This means that the future value of Mexico's bonds, previously considered worthless, were not guaranteed by the United States government. 怎么做？怎么操作呢？我要学习英文，帮我翻译一下，包括翻译细节。墨西哥使用美元购入4.29亿美元的美国国债。墨西哥用5亿美国的国债，这些国债不支付利息，但20年到期后将支付36亿。墨西哥购买了5亿美国国债，然后他零息国债。Then Moscow issued its own bonds with the U.S. security tied to them as collateral. 随后，墨西哥发行了自己的债券，并以这些美国国债作为抵押。哦，这个意思啊。Material deal. 先购买美国零息国债，然后用这些国债作为担保来发行美国自己的国债。啊，这就是啊，这叫货币，这叫债务互换。那中国政府购买美国的国债，然后呢，购买完美国的国债之后，然后再发行自己的国债，并用美国国债做担保，是这个意思吧？对吧？没错吧？是这个意思哈。That means that the future value of Moscow， 正好墨西哥债券本身是不值钱的，但是它有这个美国国债做担保，所以它就好用，对不对？The banks eagerly swapped their old loans for these new Moscow bonds at a retail about 4. In other words, they accept 100 million in bonds in return for canceling 100 million in old debt. That reduced their interest income, but they were happy to do it because they had swapped worthless loans for 4 guaranteed bonds. 当然了，怎么做的哈？这是啥意思呢？银行积极地用这些新的墨西哥债券来置换旧贷款，制约比 1.4。银行用新的墨西哥来置换旧债款，那就还让他们接受1亿美元的债券来注销1.4亿美元的旧债。 降低了他们利息收入，但他们很累，因为他们用无价值的贷款换取了完全有担保的债权。银行愿意接受一定损失来进行债务重组，虽然减少了但将无法收回的贷款换成了由美国国债做担保的新债权，大大降低了风险。银行用价值100万的债权注销140万件，表面上看，但因为就这样实际上是无法收回，所以这对银行来说反而是一个好交易。他们用债换新债。But they were happy to do it because they had sweat the worthless loans for 4 guaranteed bonds. 在债务是这样啊，这个是这样子的，债务互换的是之前墨西哥欠美国的是旧债，对吧？然后呢，他们把这些旧债换成新的债，换成了新的有那个美联储的这个国债做抵押的新的债权，是换了，但是想想啊，这块是怎么个换法？怎么个换法？这里边挺有意思的。Mary was held in the press of， 看一下啊，这个神操作 was held in the press of true monetary magic. This maneuver was held in the press, held, held, held. 受欢迎的 Hail the conquering hero， 致敬欢迎。As true monetary magic, and was saved the American government more than 20 million in annual interest charges， 2亿美元的利息的费用。It would restore cash flow to the banks. And miracle of miracles, it would cost nothing to American taxpayers. 它不会让美国纳税人承担任何费用。The reasoning was that Treasury bonds were sold at normal market rates. The Moscow government paid as much for them as anyone else. That part was true, but what the commentators failed to notice was where Moscow gathered the American dollars with which to buy these bonds. 那些购买这些国债的美元的钱是哪儿来的呢？ They came through the IMF in the form of foreign currency exchange reserve. 它是根据货币基金组织获得的 in the form of foreign currency exchange reserve 外汇储备 foreign currency exchange reserve 这些美元是通过货币基金组织以外汇储备的形式提供的。In other words， 换句话说 they were subsidies from the industrialized nations, primarily the United States。 换句话说，它实际上是来自于美国的补贴。So, the United States put up the lion's share of money by its own bonds. It went $500 million deeper in debt and agreed to pay 40 billion more in future payments. 它增加了5亿美元，并同意在未来支付额外的37美元。 So the Moscow government could continue paying interest to the banks. This is called a bailout and it does fall on American players. 表面上看起来分文不费的金融操作背后，实际上是通过货币基金组织由美国提供的资金，让墨西哥购买国债，并最终承认美国。这个复杂的金融操作虽然帮助美减轻了债务，并帮助银行获得有担保的债权，但实际上只是将债务转移给了美国纳税人。美国政府因此增加了5亿美元的债务，并同意在未来支付37亿美元，这样支付美国政府支付37亿美元。哦，天哪！这个神奇的地方就是说，嗯US government 对吧？US government 给谁呢？给 IMF，这是给 IMF 是5亿 billion， 5个 billion，然后呢，给 Mexico，然后墨西哥买 buy US bonds，然后呢，Moscow bonds，然后呢，这是美国政府通过 IMF 的五个 billion 给了墨西哥政府，然后墨西哥政府用这5个亿来买美国的债券，买完美国债券之后，然后再那个什么，再以这个为底，然后发行自己的债券，对吧？然后呢，US banks US banks 1.4:1，1.4:1置换，1.4:1，swap debt swap，然后这就是货币置换的本质，这就是货币互换的本质。然后美国的，就是他用，就是相当于美国政府，但是这个购买的美国债券到期的时候，这个到期之后20 year，到期之后要支付37个 billion，37个billion，这样的话相当于是什么意思呢？就是美国政府的债增加了20年后增加37个 billion，然后美国政府还给了 IMF 5个 billion，嗯，这美国国债， 墨西哥只赚不赔啊，对吧？墨西哥是只赚不赔，我就要你的钱就行了，你给我美元，然后那现在墨西哥的美元顺差是指的是什么？就是我每年支付你的国债，美国的国债是美国支付利息，但是墨西哥欠美国的钱，墨西哥欠美国的钱啊，墨西哥不是欠美国的钱这个道德在这儿，墨西哥不是欠美国的钱，美国政府欠墨西哥的钱，因为墨西哥买了美国政府的国债，所以是美国欠墨西哥的钱，然后墨西哥的这些钱哪来的？是银行贷给他的，所以墨西哥需要还美国银行的这些钱，需要还美国银行。那就是说，那这个圈就形成了，那就形成圈了哈。那这么回事，就是美国政府给墨西哥政府钱，然后来买美国政府的国债，对吧？然后美国政府再每年还利息，因为墨西哥买了国债了，还了美元利息，还墨西哥美元利息。然后呢，墨西哥用这些债券，然后换自己的债券，然后美国银行1.4比1，然后来换这些债券，不然的话这也是死债啊。银行有墨西哥政府的债券，那就是墨西哥每年需要还银行钱。美国知道了，这就是美国政府给墨西哥政府钱，墨西哥政府还银行的钱，然后银行的钱那就银行赚了呗。那银行这现金流就是最后就是这样，相当于美国政府印钱给美国银行，那不就是这样吗？美国政府印钱给美国银行这就是债务互换的本质，债务互换的本质。美国政府印钱给美国银行，然后最终就是那肯定这就是一个合法的印钱的一个途径。嗯，OK, that's all for today. Wow, it's a little difficult to know to comprehend the essence of the death swap. Oh, death swap, the death swap, collateral loan, the drift towards 漂流瓶流向 collateral. Okay. Thank you. That's all for today. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.